Oh, hey, good morning and or good afternoon, everybody. This is Rebel Roundup, our daily news and opinion show. I'm your regular host, Sheila Gunn Reid, and I'm joined by my Tuesday, Wednesday co-host, Lise Merle, my best friend from Regina. Lise, how's it going?
Well, it's going great, Sheila. Good news is I'm alive after our annual pilgrimage to the Pinoca Rodeo, but just hardly. I mean,
Barely.
just dragged ourselves over the finish line going, "We did it again. We somehow pulled off a
Getting
great
too
year at the
old.
Pinoca Rodeo." Yeah, nothing says senior citizen like 2 women our age, trying to keep up with the young ones, but we did.
We
Okay, but we
did.
the aunties rallied. We found all the nephews, and we were there with an 80-year-old man, which was the absolute highlight of the
Yes.
rodeo experience this year.
Yes.
Lyle, shout out to Lyle, who was just
Oh, there
the
we
best hype guy.
are.
Oh, look at us at the Pinoca Rodeo. This is with 2 days left. We're still holding up pretty strong, but no, I'm great, and I'm just so happy to be back in the chair and to be talking about things that are important to Canadians. What about you,
Yes.
Sheila Gunn Reid?
Me too. Yesterday was Canada Day, or rather Dominion Day if you're David Menzies, or if you're Albertan, it's just a day to remind yourself that there's a different way to do things. And then all of the politicians with their lame statements. I just couldn't even go anywhere near the internet yesterday, but I had to for work purposes because you need to know the crazy things that Mark Carney is saying on the internet. And he turned his Canada Day statement or one of them into like a jab at the Americans because, as you know, if you follow the guru of Justin Trudeau, the greatest thing about Canadians is that we're not American, which is like the dumbest take on our culture ever. Um, but let's tell everybody how they can get involved and how they can support the work that we do here at Rebel News because we'll never take a penny from Mark Carney to hold him to account. That would just make every news story we did a grant application. And boy, it sure feels like that if you're reading the mainstream media in this new time of jingoistic Canadian patriotism. We rely on you at home. So, if you're watching us over on Rumble, great free speech platform of Rumble, you want to support us, you can leave us a Rumble rant. That's the paid chat. And even better, if your Rumble rant is over the $5 US cutoff, we're reading it on air. We'll do our best to address it. And, we do our best to get to the ones that fall underneath that too, time permitting. Time is a little bit tight today because they need this studio and all the studio staff right at 2 p.m. Eastern. But if you are watching us on YouTube, where we remain miraculously remonetized over there, I still think it's some kind of mistake or glitch. If you want to support us, you can leave us a super chat. Same rules apply. And there's an additional way to support us. If you have missed the live show, but you are moved by the spirit to help the little company that could, you can leave a paid comment. It's called a super thanks. And we appreciate you because we know times are tight. Inflation is killing us. The government is picking your pocket harder than ever before. And so we really do appreciate that you choose to support us willingly, as opposed to what the government makes you do with the unwatchable mainstream media. Okay, so those are the rules. Let's get into some of the more progressive parts of Canada Day. Canada Day is increasingly just like a Liberal Party convention, it feels like sometimes,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
It doesn't feel reflective of everybody's values. Um, and it feels a lot of times so far detached from us in the West. Um, so the Canada Day celebration in Ottawa starts with something terribly divisive, I think, and that's a land acknowledgement. Listen up.
Des Plaines-le-Breton, qui se trouve sur le territoire non cédé de la nation algonquine Anishinaabe. The
Oh,
158th Canada Day is celebrated live from the Breton Flats Park, which is on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. Avant d'ouvrir les célébrations d'aujourd'hui, prenons un instant pour s'ancrer en rendant hommage à nos racines. This grounded and powerful moment brings contemporary Indigenous voices to the forefront and uses art as cultural sovereignty, honoring our land, our roots, and living heritage. Le tout sera guidé par l'aînée Claudette Commanda et mis en mots et images par les artistes Jennifer Alicia Murren, Tachalik Partridge et Andrina Turenne.
Okay.
Oui, Kakina. Bonjour, Canada. Hello, Canada.
We're the third language. English was the third language, just by the way.
Families, friends, communities, and visitors from coast to coast to coast, welcome to Ottawa. Welcome to Canada Day 2025. You are all so beautiful. Oh, Canada, I stand firmly on the original roots of the land. Since time immemorial, the homeland of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe ancestors. Our ancestors are our roots. Welcome to the roots of the Algonquin people.
Look, I don't have a problem with Indigenous culture. In fact, I love Indigenous culture. But this is terribly divisive, and it is just for show. When they do these land acknowledgements and they say it's on the unceded land of the Algonquin, Le Breton Park, give it back then. Give it
Right. What are all you guys what are all you guys doing there? If it's stolen land, what are all you genocidal colonizers doing there with
Just
your
give it back, you know.
elbows up gear? What
Yeah,
like it
just
makes
give it
no
back.
sense.
Otherwise, it means nothing. Otherwise, it means absolutely nothing. And you know it means absolutely nothing. And it's just a thing you say to be divisive. Because if you really meant it, you would give Le Breton Park back to the Algonquin. But they never do. Actually, I would prefer if they gave all of Ottawa back to them.
You know what? Me too.
It's all.
Let it go back to nature. I mean, nothing would be better for Ottawa than to be allowed to go back to nature, but instead we have a ruling class that has descended upon Ottawa to rain down on the rest of us peons, telling us what's best for us. If they were really serious about reconciliation, they would just give it back. And yet here we are, starting race hysterics by compelling speech and mandating land acknowledgements. It's crazy. I mean, this is peak Canada right here. Happy Canada Day. Also, Canada ruined everything, and it's awful. I mean, peak
Which
Canada.
one is it? Which one is it? Are we genocide heirs, or do you love us? I can't tell anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't make the rules. Mark Carney said he's never been prouder to call himself a Canadian. Let's find out why.
You know, there is no place I'd rather be right now than here, the true North, strong and free, celebrating Canada Day with all of you. I've had the privilege the last 6 months of crisscrossing our country. I've had to go visit some other countries for work. And I have never been prouder to say, I am Canadian.
And Irish.
And UK.
You know,
I'm surprised he didn't lead off with speaking as a European, because when he's speaking to European audiences, he's quite literally said those words. Speaking as a European, Mr. Irish passport, UK passport, and Canadian passport, and I think those are the three that we know about. God only knows what other passports he's just collected up along the way in his travels. But like a year ago, he was Mr. Speaking as a European. Now he's never been prouder to be a Canadian. Yeah, because you lord over us. That you he is Michael Ignatieff. He didn't come back for us. But unlike Michael Ignatieff, they elected him. They, not us. They elected him. And so that's the only reason he's sticking around.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's so disingenuous for him to cherry pick his citizenship on the day of the year where the federal government dumps tens of millions of dollars into celebrating the country. It's really great that he can cherry pick his citizenship on that day to say, you know, never has he been prouder to be a Canadian. I mean, the hypocrisy coming out of Mark Carney is just staggering.
Yeah. And again, the Liberals are the ones who said that we were guilty of a genocide. So what are you proud of? Like, I don't think we're guilty of a genocide. I don't. So if I were a fan of Canada, and I haven't been lately, then perhaps I would be the one to say I've never been prouder to be Canadian. But they're the ones who declared Canada a genocide state.
And a post-national state. And a post-national state. So
Right.
what exactly are we celebrating? What Canada was or what Canada is now? If you're taking the liberal definition of that, neither of those things are good. So
Yeah.
what are we celebrating here? What are we dumping taxpayer funds into? Well, it's a vanity project for the Liberals, obviously.
Right. And if you flew a Canadian flag 2 years ago or 3 years ago as part of the Freedom Convoy, or before that, even after that, because the rallies against the lockdowns, even before the convoy, they looked like Canada Day celebrations. These were people who are proud of their country, didn't like what it was turning into. It was an authoritarian state that disregarded the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And so these were people who wanted their country to go back to what it was. And you were called alt-right if you flew a Canadian flag. All of a sudden, Mark Carney comes along, does the chicken dance.
Elbows up.
Elbows up, does the chicken dance, and all of a sudden we're jingoistic Canadians again with this weaponized patriotism. There are these think pieces all over the place of Canadians reclaiming the maple leaf flag amid Trump threats. They're saying that, of course, they trot out the local professor and chair of Department of History at the University of Guelph for comment. And he says there's definitely been a surge in patriotism, a defensive form of nationalism that results from Canada seeming to be under threat from a country we have thought of for so many decades as a close ally. Well, that's how Albertans feel.
Right.
Right? We feel like that.
And Saskies.
Westerners, let's just say Westerners. They have thought of the rest of the country for a very long time as an ally, maybe even sometimes a uninformed frenemy. And you're seeing a surge in Western patriotism. And yet when we do it, we're told to shut up, sit down, shut up. They can't understand why we are the way that we are. And again, if you flew a flag, you'd have these hysterics saying, oh my goodness, that's that person alt-right, as though people with different political views flying the flag was somehow offensive to them, that it was a flag only if you voted Liberal. That's who the flag belonged to. It was offensive to them that normals might fly it too.
Yeah. No, this is a perfect example of how the Liberal Party of Canada and larger than that, the federal government of Canada has weaponized the Canadian flag to be a political symbol of their ruling class. And we're seeing that in the West with an abandonment of Canadian patriotism. We're seeing that happen live. This is what happens when you tell an entire segment of your population that you don't belong, that you are on the fringe, that your opinions and your needs and your wants are unwelcome to the establishment. This is what we're going to get, is an abandonment of Canadian symbols and initiatives. Yeah.
Look, this article from CTV goes on to irritate the daylights out of me.
Go on.
It says under, if you're looking for it, Olivia, reclaimed flag. One of the clearest signs of this shift is the maple leaf flag. Once seen by some as a symbol co-opted by the Freedom Convoy movement, as though those people weren't Canadians.
Right.
Those people weren't Canadians, you jerks.
Yeah, still are. Still are. They can wave that flag any way they want.
The flag is now being embraced by a broader group of Canadians. Like, they're just so shocked that the flag belongs to everybody. This guy says,
I love how the flag is being embraced by people who put up the flag and it still has the creases on it. You know, you can see you can see the dollar store packaging. And really, if you think that waving Canadian flags made in China and all of your dollar store finery. Okay, we saw you all on Parliament Hill and all of your dollar store finery, your Canada t-shirts that you got for $1.25. I mean, honestly, it's pretty laughable. It's pretty laughable.
This professor that they trotted out, he says, I do think that the current moment has meant that the maple leaf flag has been reclaimed for mainstream Canadians.
Okay.
As if people who thought that following arrows on the floor wouldn't save you from disease are the extremist mindset. Like, I believe this man still teaches in a mask. I'm sure of it. He says, flying the flag is no longer raising the same sorts of suspicions that the person displaying it harbors sympathies for right-wing causes.
Yeah.
This is like reverse McCarthyism.
Has anyone checked on the people of Ottawa? Like there was tens of thousands of people that would have descended upon their little bubble enclaves yesterday, with noise, with Canada flags. Has anybody checked with the residents of Ottawa? That must have been very traumatizing for them.
I hope they didn't hear any honking.
Hope not.
They're just still, I mean, they trotted out the guy from Guelph who he suffers from phantom honking still. It's sort of like if you've been at the water park all day and you lay in bed and you can still feel the water crashing on your face. That's him, but with honking. We've got Mark Carney. Can't keep the partisan garbage to himself even on one day of the year. Takes a shot at the Trump administration during Canada Day festivities. Trump did ragdoll these jerks. Like just days ago. Shut up for a second, but no, can't. He just can't. Just got to get them elbows up just to put him back down again. I mean, let's watch this.
We find ourselves in a situation where the world is being convulsed. We find ourselves in a situation where our economy is being attacked by a trade war that we didn't start.
What?
We find ourselves in a situation where our values are being tested by attacks on democracy and freedoms, attacks that we must resist. And once again, as the world becomes more divided and dangerous, Canadians are uniting.
No.
So over there. We're united. We're uniting and we're putting our values into action. We find ourselves.
Western separation is at its highest point in a generation, maybe two. What are you talking about? We're uniting. And,
exactly that.
Again, it's like we don't even exist in all of this. It's like when Justin Trudeau forgot to list Alberta in the provinces at Canada Day. It's the same stuff over and over. We're united more than ever before. No, the country is split down political lines and regional lines now. And it has a lot to do with the election of Mark Carney.
Yep, and battling a trade war we didn't start. Well, I'm pretty sure you added to that with your elbows up garbage, Mark Carney. I mean, do you not remember your entire campaign? And it's really funny the way that he is so duplicitous.
Duplicitous, what a great word for him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome for that word. He is duplicitous because when he has Donald Trump in the room, he is nothing but an arse-kissing, bending over backwards, butt up man, okay? And then when Donald Trump is not in the room, when he has a microphone to himself in front of his cronies in Ottawa, he's talking all about, he's talking about how tough we are and how, how we are handling things and how great we're doing and how united we are. When in fact, the Trump administration just handed their butts to them, the Liberal Party of Canada, and further than that, the federal government of Canada, in a trade dispute that we absolutely did contribute to. We absolutely contributed to the trade dispute. So Mark Carney has got a funny way of rewriting history and making himself look good in it, when in fact he's been an abject failure so far.
Yeah, who put in the digital services tax? Mark Carney? Do you think? Did the Russians do it? Did they?
Iran?
Iran?
Yeah.
You guys passed it and you made it retroactive. And thank God President Trump saved Canadians from a $7 billion tax grab.
Right?
He saved us from the tax grab that the Carney Liberals were trying to inflict on us, because it would have certainly been passed down to Canadian consumers. These digital streaming platforms,
Yes.
they're not going to eat that. They just give
Yes,
it to us. It was absolute garbage. He did this.
And it's crazy because Donald Trump could also intervene on our supply management issues in Canada. So he's saying unless you dismantle the dairy cartel and the other cartels in Canada that have infiltrated, our supply chain, making our groceries prohibitively expensive, we're not going to talk trade with you. And so thank God for President Trump intervening on behalf of Canadians, saving us money, getting rid of some of these crazy liberal ideas that took root over these last several years. Like, thank God for President Trump intervening.
We've got another video from Mark Carney before we hit an ad break, and I want to tell everybody about our Rebel News birthday party, so don't let me forget that. But Mark Carney says his government will get the best deal for Canadians in trade negotiations with the U.S. after backing down on imposing a digital services tax on American firms. We're making progress. And here's the thing, I don't even know if they're going to back down on the digital services tax on Canadian companies, right?
They'll probably go forward, yeah.
Which means we're going to lose Canadian companies like Rumble to the United States to get around this tax. But this guy doesn't know anything about financial flight, Mr. Banker. Right. Anyways, let's watch this.
We are all thinking about how our relationship with our neighbor to the south is changing. You have set a deadline for yourself and those neighbors, a deal in 30 days. We saw some challenges this week, even a suggestion that Canada has caved. Are you going to be able to get a deal done in time, Prime Minister?
We'll see. We're doing what's necessary in order to get the best deal for Canadians, and we get the best deal for Canadians, we'll agree to it. If we can't, we won't. I mean, it's that simple. We are making progress as a whole, and look, what we did this week is something that I think we were going to do anyways in the end for the deal. But the other elements are coming together, need to fully come together. We'll work hard. Maybe not this afternoon, to be honest. We're not going to work. I'll be honest. Can I take the afternoon off after my remarks?
I don't get to decide that.
Not a great. Well, the Canadians get to decide. I'm working for all Canadians, so.
We are all thinking about.
What is he talking about? We weren't going to do it anyway? Well, then why did you do it?
We're going to get the best deal for Canadians, but if we can't, we won't. I think he actually said that. Like, make that all make sense, guys, because I'm not real sure about what he said there. But, I guess we can all just breathe a sigh of relief that Prime Minister Mark Carney got an afternoon off.
Yeah. I think he's got the whole summer off. But, yeah, like you said, what happened this week, I think we were going to do anyway. Well, then why'd you do it? Why'd you piss off the Americans like that? Nobody believes that you weren't going to do it because you wouldn't have done it then.
Right.
He brought in the digital services tax. The Americans said, the hell you are, stop trade talks. And then the Canadians just turtled. Elbows went way down.
It's the exact same playbook as tariffs, right? So Canada comes in, Mark Carney comes in, all tough, all big and blustery, elbows up, elbows up. We're never going to concede to the Americans. Everything is changing. We're going to teach them. We're not going to do what those Americans want. And then as soon as Trump says, right, you're going to do what we want, or we're going to slam you with tariffs. Well, what does Mark Carney do? He rescinds all of the counter tariffs, all of the reciprocal tariffs. Same thing happened here. We're not going to change anything. We're going to go forward. We're going to stick to our guns, elbows up, until Trump comes along and says, if you don't withdraw this digital services tax, the talks are over. Our talks are over. So what we're learning here is that what America wants, America's going to get as it pertains to Mark Carney and trade negotiations. And Mark Carney should do some hard listening to what the Americans want from their trade talks with Canada.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I don't want him to be antagonistic, but he campaigned on being antagonistic. And that's what I find so comical, if it weren't for the Canadian economy being at stake, is just what a coward this guy is. It's like those left-wing journalists who will talk a big game about me and Rebel News online until I'm in the same room with them. And then they're like, oh my God, did she see me? Like, they're so scared of me. I'm not a big woman, but grown ass mainstream media men will hide in fear from me. And it's pathetic because they are like Mark Carney. Liberal men seem to be all the same. They talk a good game in public, but where the rubber meets the road, they're nothing but a bunch of cowards, complete and total cowards. They'll talk behind your back, but never to your face.
Well, sure, because
plays right out.
When you take them out of their validation circle, they have no good arguments. So there's that, Sheila Gunn Reid.
Right.
There is that.
Right.
These are not men that are being used to having questions leveled at them that they have to put any thought into. No.
There's a crisis of testosterone on the left for sure. Like grown men should not hide, cower in fear from me. Yeah. I want to tell everybody about our Rebel News birthday party before we hit the ad break. So Thursday, September 18th at 6 p.m. It's at the Carriage House Hotel and Conference Center in Calgary, Alberta. We've got live music, we've got cocktails, hors d'oeuvres, a meet and greet, and photos with your favorite rebels. We actually had our 10th birthday back in February, but we were in the throes of prorogation, the Liberal leadership campaign, and what we knew to be an impending election campaign. So it was very busy. We had to work. We put our party aside. And now, I mean, and we were planning it. We kept having to move it because of work. And now we've just decided there's always going to be work. We have to pull the chute on this thing. So it's September 18th in Calgary. Please join us to celebrate all of the hard work that our Rebel employees have done, bringing you the truth, bringing you the other side of the story, advocating for the little guy, and standing up for freedom. And we just want you to join us because you have been part of this journey with us as well. Because as I say off the top of almost every show, there's no us without you. And so we want you to be a part of our birthday party because there's no way we could have made it to 10 years with all the attacks that come our way. We couldn't have survived, let alone thrived in this censorship climate without all of you. So we insist that you join us. Space is limited though. So if you're thinking about it, don't. Just go get your tickets.
Put it on your calendar. These are your September plans with your friends from Rebel News. Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard her say it, but there will be cocktails. There will be hors d'oeuvres
and live
music.
And I love live music.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Girl, we are so good with live music. I mean, those three things, you had me at cocktails, but then add the rest of it in there. Okay. All of our friends are going to be there. Sheila Gunn Reid. We're going to have our selfie game on point. And it is going to be, and it is going to be a magical evening. So make your September plans right now, people. September 18th. Put it in your calendar that you're going to be seeing us and go get your tickets real fast because it's going to be a swish bang good time.
Yep. Go to happybirthdayrebel.com after we're done the live stream. But don't think on it because this thing's going to sell out. It's going to be so fun. It feels like we've just been flat out for 10 years straight. And I should tell you, that is right after, I think, my 10th anniversary at the company because I'm not a day oneer. My youngest started school full time. Kind of person wherein I couldn't decline any offers to work at that point because my excuse started grade 1. So I wasn't a day oneer, but I was a little bit down the road, and it has been a crazy time here at Rebel News. I can't even believe the things I've done and the fights that we fought together. So anyways, please join us.
And one.
Yeah. And one. Yes. So that's happybirthdayrebel.com. Drinks, snackies, and live music, and all of your favorite rebels and friends you haven't met yet. So please join us. Let's hit an ad break, and then we'll be right back.
Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA Hats to introduce, well, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
All right. If you got all your news from the mainstream media, you wouldn't know that there was an ISIS-inspired slashing spree on a bus in BC. But that is the case. I've got this article here. I wrote it up. It was originally reported in, I think, by the local Maple Creek newspaper. Surrey bus slash attacks confirmed as ISIS-inspired. Justice Miriam Gropper ruled the attacks were premeditated and ideologically motivated, stating the violent acts were clearly meant to further the cause of a terrorist group. So this is what he did. First we'll get into that he was found guilty of attempted murder and assault with a weapon, both for the benefit of a terrorist organization, namely ISIS, for a rampage that occurred on April 1st, 2023.
Yeah. And this is the wildest story that none of us have heard of yet.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who consumed all sorts of we'll say radicalized content online, and made a plan to go on a great big stab and throat slashing spree on a bus in Surrey, and caught two people slashing their necks several times. They both survived, but they were seriously injured in the attack. They had life-threatening injuries. But what was so interesting was that he was engaging with Islamic State information, they call it. So here is a guy who's being radicalized online, who is committing to and taking a pledge on behalf of the Islamic State, and then going out into the wild in Canada and attacking people just waiting for the bus or on the bus. It is a crazy story that none of us have heard yet until today. And this comes, the original story was published in Maple Ridge News. Maple Ridge, yeah.
So we know that the attacker, his name is Abdul Aziz Kawam. He's 28. He approached a man waiting at a bus stop near Fraser Highway in Surrey. He asked the man if he was Muslim. When the man said no, Kawam pulled out a knife and slashed his throat. The victim, by the grace of God, managed to escape with only minor injuries. But minutes later, he boarded another bus and struck again. He walked up behind a seated male passenger and, without warning, grabbed him by the head and used a large knife to slash his throat 3 times in quick succession. The victim, covered in blood, was rushed to hospital. He survived, but only thanks to emergency surgery. So the evidence presented at trial included a chilling 911 call made shortly after the attack, in which Kawam declared he acted on behalf of ISIS and pledged loyalty to then leader Abu al-Hussein al-Husseini al-Qurashi. A video recorded 10 days earlier recovered from his phone, in which Kawam again pledged allegiance to ISIS, and encrypted messages and ISIS propaganda stored on his phone, and he will be sentenced July 10th. They don't say if he's a citizen, They just say he's a Surrey man.
Right. Right. It's also one of the other points of the story that I thought was really telling was it was during the holy month of Ramadan that this attack occurred, and he pledged his allegiance to the Islamic State at the time, and told Westerners to convert to Islam or pay the price. And the price that was going to be paid was death or blood spilling. And this is just a hideous, barbaric attack on Canadians that again none of us have heard of until this moment. And so his sentencing is coming up in how many 8 days on July 10th, and it'll be really interesting to see what the sentence is for attacking two Canadians on a bus.
Yeah, I think we're going to find out if he is a Canadian citizen, if he is a naturalized Canadian citizen, and if that's the case, when and how and from where did he become naturalized? Is he Syrian? How did he get here? I think we're going to learn more about that at his sentencing, because sort of the circumstances become more clear, because it's about mitigating factors.
Sure. His mental health will be scrutinized. The way remember the bus attack that happened on the Greyhound bus
Vincent Lee.
Vincent Lee, yes, and he is now part of society. Vincent Lee beheaded a man on a Greyhound bus several years ago and claimed that he was not criminally responsible because of his mental health, and he is now part of Canadian society again. So we'll see what this guy's lawyers do and what they claim as it pertains to sentencing, but we're going to get a lot more details on the story. We're going to keep on it because it is such an important story to tell Canadians that people within our borders are being radicalized by the Islamic State to do and pledge and undertake attacks on regular Canadians.
Yeah, this is especially concerning since we're bringing in 5,000 Gaza refugee claimants, and that could mean entire families. And their support for Hamas actually increased post October 7th. So they're being radicalized in UN-run schools over there. An entire generation or two.
I mean, our own kids are being radicalized in Canadian schools right now. Sheila Gunn Reid, this is, I mean, it is an outrage. But it does beg to be mentioned that the only reason why these two victims survived this attack was because they were in a place where police could respond almost immediately. So kudos to the BC police that responded to this hideous attack.
Now, there's an active investigation, or was at the scene of Anita Anand's constituency office in downtown Oakville. What is the horrible crime? Her not dancing with the ones that brought her, I guess. Her office was vandalized with pro-Palestinian, I don't know, I guess materials, papered with
Symbols.
Anita Anand is getting a taste of what people in Montreal and Toronto have to live with all of the time.
Thoughts and prayers, Anita.
Yeah, I hope she's
Thoughts
okay.
and prayers.
Look, I don't want Hamas radicals vandalizing anybody's constituency office. I don't want Hamas radicals in the country, actually.
At all.
But this is being treated like an active shooter event. And this is stuff normal people, Jews in their neighborhoods, have to put up with in Toronto.
Well, it's just another example of that hypocrisy where what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. You know, this is happening to Canadians every single day on the streets of Canada because of the terrible policy decisions of the federal government of Canada. When it happens to one of their own, then they come screaming with their hair on fire about, who knows, hate motivated crimes or some sort of vandalism. Well, this is what's happening to everyday Canadians, Anita. Like, now you know. Now you know.
I hope she wasn't made uncomfortable by it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to this next story because it speaks to a broader issue of a couple of things, issues. This is a dual Canadian U.S. citizen in custody in deadly St. Lawrence River human smuggling case. So, he was part of a deadly human smuggling operation that left migrants drowned in the St. Lawrence River. He'll remain in custody following a detention hearing in the Northern District of New York District Court on Tuesday. The U.S. Justice Department said 34-year-old Timothy Oakes was arrested as he attempted to enter the United States on June 15th. Here's the problem. Oakes is from Akwesasne, which straddles the U.S. border west of Montreal. He was indicted in April for conspiring with others to smuggle people from Canada into the United States, as well as 4 counts of alien smuggling for profit and 4 counts of alien smuggling resulting in death. He was the key facilitator in the smuggling operation, which left a Romanian family of 4, including 2 young children, dead in March 2023. He was paid $1,000 per person. He did this with his brother. 4 members of a family from India were also on the boat and drowned. But the U.S. indictment against Oakes does not include their deaths. So 8 people died.
8 people died in a human trafficking situation.
And so this is why the Americans would like us to deal with our border. And that includes borders that run through First Nations reserves. Because Akwesasne is a problem for tobacco smuggling, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and guns. We're not supposed to talk about that. But it is true. And 8 people died because of a human smuggling operation that was fomented on reserve by people who live on reserve and that were getting around Canadian laws, or at least flouting Canadian laws, knowing that their special status wouldn't allow them to have or engage more serious scrutiny. And we're only dealing, and the Americans are dealing with this. I hope they send this guy to Gator Gitmo.
Oh, me too. Throw him in alligator land for a couple of months. No, but this is a huge problem on Canadian First Nations reserves. The human trafficking, narco trafficking, alcohol and firearms, and tobacco sourcing on First Nations reserves. And here we have a situation where 8 people died because of the actions of one man who was operating with impunity outside of the law on his First Nation. So,
yep.
What are we doing about this, Canada?
Right. Where's that border czar guy? What's he up to?
Have not heard hide nor hair of him since his humongous big congratulatory back-patting session for getting his big job. No idea where
that guy. I wonder
no
what
idea where he
that guy.
went.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Thousands of foreigners' criminal convictions forgiven by Ottawa over an 11-year span, raising transparency concerns.
Forgiven.
Yeah, just forgiven. Now, here's the thing. I'm of 2 minds of this. Because I actually don't believe that if you were convicted of a bar fight at age 18, that you should be prohibited from coming to Canada if you have lived a law-abiding life. I don't think that that's right, because people who have lived the right way we want people to learn from their mistakes. And if they do, and they have been rehabilitated, I think the hoops for those people to come into Canada are too expensive, too long, and too prohibitive. And I also believe the same is true the other way. If you have a weed conviction at 18, the United States doesn't recognize your Canadian record suspension, which they don't. I think they should. I think they should. Getting record suspensions is too difficult. It takes too long. And it punishes people who have done the right thing to make their lives better. But how much do you want to bet that this is not what we're talking about? You know what I mean? This is not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about people who had youthful indiscretions, who have turned their lives around and have lived decently for an extended period of time. That's not what we're talking about here. I'm willing to bet, and the reason I'm willing to bet that is because they won't tell us what's
They
going
will
on.
not tell us. Just so convenient that the government won't tell us what kind of criminal offenses were forgiven before these people were granted access to Canada. Uh, the immigration minister would be involved in decisions relating to the most serious offenses. So that just goes to show you that there are a certain segment of those 17,500 foreigners that were let into the country where at least a marginal amount of them had serious offenses forgiven by the government of Canada. Now, I beg you, Canada, to tell me, are these the kind of people that will make our country better?
Right.
Are these the highest achievers? Are these the doctors and the engineers the government tells us we so badly need from these other countries? Or are these the bad guys that maybe their home country had a real interest in offloading to another nation?
Right. And I appreciate that Stephen Harper, after Carla Homolka got her pardon, made it so that certain offenses cannot receive record suspensions.
Right.
Great. Love that. But I think other convictions should be considered spent after a certain period of time. That people should not have to jump through these hoops. If you've just kept the peace and been of good behavior, then they're gone. And they sort of do that in the UK, although I'm not one to advise that we follow the UK track on, well, nearly almost everything. But I think they do have this sort of right. And I wish the Americans did that too. But again, I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I think these are bad people who have done bad things, and
it's definitely not. Yeah,
I think about the Heather Masons of the world. Right. She can't travel to the United States. She's fighting for the rights of female prisoners behind bars. She's living a good and decent life. She's giving back to her community. She can't go to the United States.
She's not considered.
Person.
She's not considered rehabilitated. So government figures show that in the 11 years up to and including 2024, 17,600 people convicted of criminal offenses abroad were considered rehabilitated by the IRCC. This meant that they were able to apply to enter Canada through work and or study visas as permanent residents or visitors. So here we have the government of Canada who has crapped the bed on almost every single measurable figure that you could put in front of them, saying, doing interviews with foreign criminals saying, are you sorry? Like, are you sorry you did that bad thing in your home country? Okay, come on, get on in here, guys. Get on in. If you say you're good, then we believe you're good. That's the level of transparency that our immigration system has afforded these people. I mean, Canada, these are not the best and brightest. These are not people that we would want in the country.
Speaking of people we don't want in the country, Bob Villain, who I just discovered existed by
5 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago because of the death to the IDF chants at Glastonbury. You can imagine I don't pay such attention to Glastonbury Music Festival when I'm more of a rodeo type. And Kneecap, which I believe is another band, over allegations of inciting hatred and glorifying terrorism. And this is Canada. Not only will we let them in, I think we might offer them citizenship. They shouldn't be coming into the country. They have, I think, dates planned in Canada down the road.
They sure do.
No.
They sure do. So these guys, this band, is it a rapper and a hip hop band?
I don't know about the young people music, as you know.
They're being accused and maybe charged of inciting hate.
I think the accusations are. I think we can go a little further than saying they're just accusations. He said, death to the IDF. Hell yeah, from the river to the sea. Palestine must be, will be, inshallah, it will be free. He made a complaint on stage about, quote, working for an effing Zionist.
That's a fast way to get yourself fired.
Yeah,
Want to bet how fast he got dropped? I bet he
Yeah.
has already been dropped by his management team. Is he? Has he? I bet it's already happened. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't. Yeah, you just can't do that. Actually, Sheila, here's a little bit about Glastonbury, which you may not know. It's the home of Glastonbury Abbey, a site of Christian pilgrimage and legend, and the world-renowned Glastonbury Festival, a musical and performing arts event held on Worthy Farm. So on these humongous estates. What's the word I'm looking for?
Aristocracy.
Thank you. Yes. On the estates of the aristocracy in England, what they found was they couldn't the old school old money families couldn't afford to keep up with their castles and their abbeys and all of the many,
Right.
acres of land or whatever. So now they rent them out to music festivals one weekend or 1 week of the year to make the money that they need to run their humongous estates. And so here we have an abbey, the former site of an abbey and a Christian pilgrimage, and a performer on the stage calling for death to the IDF. What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing sounds more disgusting to me than a bunch of young rap consuming people in their accoutrements piled into like an aristocrat's estate to listen to anti-Semitic music. And I see this as someone who stood in the blowing rain at a rodeo ground in the muddy rodeo arena to listen to music over the weekend. That other thing, that first thing, sounds grosser to me.
Yeah, it is. It sure is. No, our actually contrast this story with our experience at Ponoka, where we saw a band that was evangelizing to tens of thousands of young people, encouraging them to do good things. They didn't know. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
We're talking about you, High Valley. All those people don't know they're listening to Christian music because it's good.
And yet that's exactly what happened. What a huge contrast. But I wouldn't be surprised. So America has banned these two bands from coming. They had 20 gigs set up in America this summer, going on a tour of America, and America said, no thanks, we don't want you. And Canada has yet to rule on whether these bands can come and perform here.
As if this is a tough decision,
right?
By the way.
But Canada Border Services, they're busy doing other things like being in DEI struggle sessions and celebrating Pride season. So who knows when they're going to get around to making a decision about these guys. But no, are these the kind of people that we want bringing into the country to influence our youth? Probably not.
Well, here's the problem. They already have people on the streets of Canada saying these things that shouldn't be here either. So it's kind of tough to take a hardline stance against not allowing these people in. Like, it's kind of hard to make that point if there are temporary foreign students and temporary foreign workers and immigrants to Canada who are not yet citizens saying these exact things in Toronto every weekend. You can't ban the band if you won't do something about the people that are already here.
Well, it's a sad state of affairs in Canada when you could look at these two bands that are facing charges in the UK as a Canadian and say, well, what's two more? What's two or three more?
Exactly.
It's a sad state of affairs.
We're running out of time, but let's go to, I'll do two more things. Mark Carney's chief of staff just got the Order of Canada.
Okay,
Marc-Andre Blanchard is Mark Carney's chief of staff. He got the Order of Canada. You know who didn't get the... we also know that Theresa Tam got the Order of Canada. Bonnie Henry got the Order of Canada. I have a video of my dog. I was in my office. I don't know where it is. I'll have to dig it up. I was just in my office, sort of cutting clips, watching stuff. It was early on in the pandemic. And my dog, she's well behaved. She doesn't even bark. All of a sudden just starts howling, growling, and barking. I look up and Bonnie Henry's on my TV. And it was my dog. Morgan the Wonder Dog doesn't like Bonnie Henry because dogs know. Well, she got the Order of Canada. Theresa Tam got the Order of Canada. And
Buffy St. Marie did have the Order of Canada,
he
but they've
did.
since rescinded it. So maybe they needed to find somebody to take Buffy St. Marie's Order of Canada. And Mark Carney's chief of staff was just the guy to be able to say, yeah.
Well, you know who didn't get it though? Don Cherry didn't get it. They're gonna wait till he's dead, and then they'll award it to him posthumously, as though that's not the final slap in the face, as if Theresa Tam deserved it over him.
Right.
As if.
Right. Well, Don Cherry is in that unique camp of Canadians where the landed elitists can't admit that what he says is more popular than what they say, and so of course they can't. Of course they can't honor him with an Order of Canada. But then again, with that company, Sheila, with that list that you just unrolled, who would want it?
No,
Like, who
thanks.
in their right mind would want to be in that company? Hey, I got an award that a bunch of lion, well-connected, grifting elitists got. Like, who would
Right.
want to hold that up as a selling feature on their, like, Don Cherry is too good for the Order of Canada. That's what I'm
Right.
going to say. Yeah.
When Don Cherry is gone, and I hate to say it that way, we should create a special Order of Don Cherry award.
The Don Cherry Award for Freedom. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And excellence in broadcasting.
And freedom of expression.
Being delightful in broadcasting. Just being actually consumable while being a broadcaster, because that's difficult and not a lot of people are.
We should not wait on that, though. We should not wait on that. We should not let moss grow on that rolling stone. Now that the idea is in the air, we should create a Don Cherry Award. You know what? Screw the Order of Canada. We're creating our own thing. The Don Cherry Award. Heck yeah. Canada, what do you think about this?
Let me know.
Let us know.
Let me know in the comments. One more quick little thing, and then we'll get to our chats and the Daily Cringe, which is comical. Okay. CBC wanted closed door hearings. This is quite something. CBC they've just lost a court application to block rival reporters from covering a hearing involving misconduct of one of its own managers.
Imagine.
So records show lawyers for the Crown broadcaster sought a publication ban on a hearing involving a producer disciplined for misconduct. I think it was harassment. An independent investigation. Isn't that funny? Because I filed a bit of a formal complaint with the Debates Commission, which was held in the CBC facility for workplace harassment on behalf of the reporters at Rebel News. And they didn't get back to me until they reached out to me as the head of IPG for comment about their investigation into what went down during the debates. And I reminded them that perhaps you could start with addressing two separate complaints before you ask for
comment.
And anyways, records show lawyers sought a publication ban on a hearing involving a producer disciplined, by the way, so found to be guilty of misconduct. The independent investigation concluded with a producer with the CBC engaged in harassment. He was suspended without pay for 1 month. He should have been fired. Isn't that funny?
I bet he had a union. I bet he had a union backing him up.
Wait a minute. Doing what unions do. The Directors Association, his union, filed a grievance. Given the nature of the case, CBC asked a labor arbitrator for a publication ban that would make it possible to identify the individuals. The arbitrator rightly refused. And it's funny because in the inverse, CBC lawyers have filed claims as plaintiffs and interveners in court proceedings seeking to overturn publication bans. Their own lawyers argued that freedom of the press should only be limited through a discretionary power when such an order is necessary to prevent a serious risk to the proper administration of justice.
Oh, nothing shows the blatant hypocrisy of the CBC more than this. So the CBC, on one hand, the CBC uses its lawyers and its unlimited funds that the federal government gives them to argue that they should always be part of the reporting process, except for when it pertains to them, except for when it's a case that would make them look bad. And then they want all other reporters ejected from covering the story that would make them look bad. Like the CB's, like never doubt the insane hypocrisy of the CBC Canada. Never doubt the way that they will sell you out to protect their own interests. It's gross. It's just
Now,
gross.
I have a delightful workplace in which I'm employed. So this is a purely hypothetical. But if some senior manager, let's just say me, at Rebel News was engaged in workplace harassment and that ended up before the court. Trust me, I've never harassed anybody. But if that ended up before the court, you better bet that Rosie Barton would go into full Nancy Grace mode. Right?
Bombshell. Bombshell
tonight. Honest to God.
Yeah.
These
Yeah. Well, I do hope that this is going to pull a Streisand effect, because in the CBC's arguing that there should be a publication ban surrounding this entire case, what they're doing is actually calling more media to pay attention to what happened here. Because where there is smoke, there is fire. And where the CBC is trying to tamp out the smoke rising up, they are just calling more attention to the case. So I hope that a whole bunch of independent media descends upon this case and tells us exactly what happened.
Throw another log on the fire. Okay, let's get to some chats. We've got a few, and then we'll do the daily cringe. And I know they need the studio, so I know we're already going long, but I'll be as fast as I can. Elshara Silverheart says $10. Thank you. Says it's my birthday today. Well, happy birthday. I live in the Lower Mainland. All I want for my birthday is a Canadian flag. I love you, Canada. Oh, well, that's nice. Alicia
Happy
Silverheart.
birthday.
Happy birthday. Gives us $5 and says she's 32.
Oh, just a youngin'. Just a youngin'.
Sevenfold 777 gives us $5 and says make Canada pray again. Alicia Silverheart also says Canada needs a department of citizen or government efficiency when communities need help to rely on our neighbors the most. I don't think we need the government to do that.
No.
That's what I think charities exist. Because we don't need some overpaid government bureaucrat to tell us to help our neighbors. That's actually the last thing I need. Right. I appreciate the sentiment, but Alicia Silverheart also gives us $5 and says we can do better when we willingly come together as one local nation, not remote citizens of another by force. Just my opinion. See, that's what the willingly there is the most important part, because once the government gets involved, nothing's willing. Right. They will do it more expensive and with force, and I don't want any of those things.
Yeah.
Alicia Silverheart also gives us $5 and says, why do the leaders of our own people think they should have the right to govern foreign nationals more so than the people who voted them into office? Okay. Let's get to the daily cringe. And I think,
my favorite.
I think that the Globe and Mail made this article free. This is such baloney. Would you die for Canada? Polling suggests Canadians are more willing to fight for their country.
Oh. Okay.
The Cascade Institute commissioned Environics to conduct an online poll of more than 2,000 Canadians to gauge their willingness to defend Canada against a military attack. Give me a break. The poll was fielded in April, and respondents were sampled and weighted to represent Canada's regional, linguistic, demographic, and socioeconomic diversity. Again, give me a break. He said, what actions would you take, if any, to fight to defend Canada against a military attack and invasion or occupation of a hostile foreign power? More than 72% of respondents said they'd take at least some action, giving a list of alternatives, with about 26% willing to volunteer for a civil defense and 13% willing to volunteer for military service.
Huh. Oh, these are people that wouldn't leave their condos to save Canada. These are people that stay in their little bubbles for safety. And yet get them on the phone. Press 1 if you would join the military. Oh, I would. Definitely the keyboard warriors. Yeah, sure you would.
These are people who thought that honking was domestic terrorism, to the point that they invoked a domestic terrorism law on these people.
The War Measures Act.
These are
War Measures Act. Yes.
Who followed all the stupid COVID rules, regardless of how little sense those COVID rules made, to the letter of the law, because they were so scared of the flu. Those people are going to sign up to fight and die for this country. No, they'll sign you up to fight and die for this country. That's what they mean. By the way, I'm still waiting on them to come grab my guns and give them to the Civil Defense Force in Ukraine. So they're also the pro-disarm the Canadian public people, but we're also going to fight for Canada. How are you going to do that? With sticks? Stones?
Yes, with masks, shooting masks off the end of their finger.
Fling the tampons out of the men's room at them, and hopefully we get them in the eye.
I can't wait to see all of these people in barracks, to be completely honest. I can't wait. Go at it.
Can you imagine them trying to go through basic training and then just whining that there's no vegan food?
Excuse me, but where is the DEI struggle session? I was told there was going to be a DEI network here for me. What is going on?
Okay. Olivia tells me that we need to wrap. I'm back tomorrow. Lise, thanks so much for co-hosting with me this Wednesday. Thanks. You're welcome, right?
You're very welcome. You're so welcome.
Thanks to everybody who works behind the scenes at Rebel News to make the show happen. Thanks to all of you who pitch in a little bit to keep the lights on here at Rebel News, and those of you who share the show with people who need to see it for free. Please leave a comment. That helps us beat the algorithm. And as David Menzies always says, stay safe and stay sane.